Today I'm going to show you how to make a drip cake just like this one. Now this is a cake that will be easy to follow along, especially if you're a beginner. You don't really need a lot of specialty tools. It's going to be something that you can do right at home and you'll be able to impress anyone with this style of cake. First thing we're going to do is tort all of these cake layers. Basically all that means is taking one big cake and then cutting that into slices. So I have a cake leveler here. If you don't have something like this, and if you're a beginner you probably don't, just use a knife. It does the same thing. And it basically just makes sure that you have even cake layers. Okay, so that's 2, and then I should be able to get 6 total layers. Okay, so this is all of our cake layers now torted. Now at this point, you could add simple syrup. It's basically just gonna make sure that they stay moist, but these cakes are already pretty good. And if you're a beginner, it's something that you don't really need to know right now. To stack a cake, you really only need 2 things and they're very important. You're going to need a turntable. Yes, you could make a cake without one, but it's gonna be so difficult. So always have a cake turntable and then also have an offset spatula. The thing that makes it an offset is just that it doesn't go straight up and down. There's an angle. It's gonna stop your hand from actually touching the cake. This is optional, but I like an ice cream scoop. This is gonna make sure that I have the same amount of frosting in between all the cake layers. Of course, you don't have to use this, but I would recommend it. I'm gonna start off by adding just a little frosting to the bottom of my cake board. And this is gonna act like a glue so that that bottom layer doesn't slide around. Now taking that ice cream scoop, I'm just going to get a scoop of my frosting, plop that right on top. And now I can just use that offset spatula and then go around and make sure that that is all smooth and even around the cake. So this is why this turntable is important. I'm just gonna keep my hand still and then just turn the cake table and it's just gonna get it all smooth for me. Okay, so that's 1 down and now I'm just gonna keep adding on layer by layer, doing that same step over and over again. Whenever you're stacking a cake, always make sure that you're also doing them even. And you can also step back and take a look at it. You'll maybe realize something that you may have missed. This is the last layer I'm adding on top. And now I'm going to do the crumb coat. So this is now my 6-layer cake that I have stacked up. Now you can always do thicker layers and not tort them as much as I did in the beginning, but that's up to you. This is just the cake to frosting ratio that I like. Now it's time to do the crumb coat and it's all in the name. Basically, you're just adding some frosting onto the cake and this is going to make sure all the crumbs get trapped and they don't end up in our final layer of frosting. So I'm just going to add just a little bit of frosting on the outside. So this is not a thick layer at all. It's literally, I'm sliding along the cake. You want it to just be the thinnest layer possible. The last thing I need to do for the crumb coat is just to smooth off the cake now. So I have my cake comb here and I'm just going to touch the side of the cake and then just spin and it's going to clean all that frosting off. So you want to be gentle with this. Literally just touch the cake and then allow the cake turntable to do all the work for you. For our final coat, we're going to start off with covering the top of the cake first. So again, I'm just going to take another scoop, add that to the top, and then I'm going to smooth that out. For the side of the cake, there's 2 things you can do. You can either use your spatula and slap the frosting on the side, or you can use a piping bag. I'm going to show you with a piping bag. I like to do it this way, and I think it's a lot cleaner and faster. And a good trick with your piping bag is just to use a cup or anything that you have, and you can basically put the piping bag in that, and you can fill it a lot easier. I'm just gonna cut a piece of the piping bag off at the end. Really doesn't matter the size. You don't need to have a super thick layer of frosting on the outside unless that's what you like. So now I'm just going to keep the piping bag in one spot and just spin the cake board. And I'm gonna let that add the frosting on the outside for it. Okay, just like that, we have our frosting on the side of the cake. I just found that to be so much easier to do. It's of course up to preference, but I like this best. So now I'm gonna take my cake comb again. This again is just a straight edge cake comb, pretty much standard. And you can use all different types to make designs, but I'm just going to use this one to kind of make a really clean cake. So again, I'm gonna just barely touch the frosting, make sure that it's straight up and down. Also make sure it's at a 45-degree angle. You don't wanna have it straight out like this. 45-degree angle, touch the frosting, and then just spin your cake board. So any spots on this cake where you see there holes or any crevices, you can always fill that in. So I'm seeing some right here that I just need to fill in. So that's why I also like this piping bag, because I can easily just add a little bit more frosting in those spots, and then I'll smooth that out. There we have it. That was pretty simple, straight to the point. And I think as long as you use a piping bag, it also kind of helps you not get that many air bubbles onto the side, and it fills it out a lot faster, in my opinion. Okay, so now the next thing we need to do is clean off the edge of the top of this cake. So a trick you could do is put this in the freezer, let it get really cold, and then you can use a knife. But I'm gonna also just show you the quick and simple way to do it. You just take your offset spatula, and then it's just going to start at the edge, and you're just going to pull in towards the cake. And you're just going to do that all the way around. Now, when I first started doing cakes, this was always the most stressful part for some reason, but it's honestly not that bad. Okay, there we have it. We have our really clean edges. Like I said, if you want to get this super sharp, put it in the freezer for a few and then use a knife to do it. But honestly, I think this looks great. Now I'm gonna add a border on the bottom of this cake just to add some color to it, because I don't want the cake to be completely white. So I'm just going to take these sprinkles. I'm using rainbow, but of course you can use any type of sprinkles or any other type of toppings like Oreos, anything would work. And I'm just going to place these on the side. Now this part is gonna get a little messy, but it's okay. You don't have to be perfect with this. Kind of just put them on the side. Now, how high up or low you just decide to go, that's really up to you. So now I have this bottom border pretty much on there like I like. So now I'm just going to take my offset spatula and I'm going to use that to push the sprinkles into the frosting just to make sure they don't fall off. And then I can also just scrape off the ones that I don't need. The sprinkles now are all on the cake. I think it looks pretty nice. So now I'm going to put this in the freezer for about 15 minutes because the next thing we're going to do is add a drip, and I need to make sure that this cake is really cold.
A few moments later.
Now it's time to add the drip, and I'm going to be using a store-bought cake drip to do this because I want to keep this as beginner-friendly as possible. Now you could do this same exact thing with chocolate ganache, but this is going to be the easiest way to do it. I have my drip warmed up, and I'm just going to add it to the side of the cake. I just want to be careful about how much I'm adding because I don't want it to drip too far down and touch the sprinkles. I just don't think that'll be a clean look. And that's why a really cold cake really comes in handy, because it's going to stop this drip from going too far down and kind of freeze those strips in place so that way they don't go all the way and touch our sprinkles. Just like that, the drip is done. So now I'm just going to finish out the top of the cake. I'm just going to be adding some Oreos and some more frosting. So I have like golden Oreos here. I think these are like birthday cake, but it doesn't really matter. And I'm just going to add these to the top. I always like to do 8. That way everything can be really symmetrical. So the first 2 right across from each other. And then I just keep going around the cake like that. The Oreos now are all on the cake, so now I'm just going to add the frosting. So I'm going to be using that with a piping tip. This is a 1B piping tip. It's my favorite to use on top of cakes. It like makes really nice swirls on top. So I'm just going to add that to the piping bag. I'm just going to cut the end of the piping bag off. If you don't cut enough, that's totally fine. Just cut a little bit more. If you cut too much, all right, that's a big mistake because now you have to use a whole new bag. So you just want to be careful with that. Okay, so I have that. I'm just going to place this in the cup. That way it'll be a lot easier to fill. Now I'm just going to add this frosting in between each of the Oreos. All I'm going to do is basically make a swirling motion with my wrist to kind of make that swirl come out on top. The very last thing we're going to add is more sprinkles on top just to add a little more color. Here's our drip cake complete. I think it turned out amazing. I think the Oreos on top were a nice touch. All the sprinkles just look so good. This is a pretty simple cake to do. It's really beginner friendly. And if you made this, I'm sure everyone will be impressed by your skills. So if you like this cake, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. And if there's any other things that you'd like to see me make, like how I made this frosting or how I did the cake layers, just let me know and I'll see y'all in the next video.